Welcome to the Meet Crete podcast, where we sit down and talk with people who make Crete run every day. Hi, I'm Dave. I'm one of the creative producers in the communications department at Crete Carrier. And today, we're going to meet someone who works at Crete behind the scenes, but does some very important stuff. And we're going to find out all about that and about her. Today, we're going to meet Halley Kruse. Hi.
Hi, Dave. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for sitting down.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
Okay. Your last name is Kruse, but who's your family?
So, the full extended version of the name
Yes.
is Halley Acklie Kruse. So that should, you can kind of peel back the onions there, the layers of the onion, if you will. So Dwayne and Phyllis Acklie were my grandparents, and then Ton and Holly Ostergaard are my parents.
And you're carrying on important work for all of those people, and we'll talk about all that stuff. First of all, let's talk about you.
Sure.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to school at Middlebury College in Vermont.
Ooh, cold up there. Maple syrup's good, I bet.
Maple syrup is great. It's not really, coming from Nebraska, I felt very well prepared for the Vermont
that's
weather.
True. That's true.
So, there were kids from, Middlebury is a very small school, but it has a large international student population. So, there were kids from the Caribbean. That was new experience to them.
That would be hard on them, sure.
Yeah, but I felt right at home.
So what did you study while you were there? What was your major?
Political science.
Political science. And
Yeah.
then you got some postgraduate work in, and you became what?
Eventually, I went to law school and became an attorney. And so I did a judicial clerkship for a year after graduating from law school. I was in private practice for about 3.5 years. And then in 2018, came back to Crete Carrier.
You kind of undersold your clerkship, did you not? Who did you clerk for?
Judge Arlen Beam, he's no longer practicing as a judge, but he was on the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals.
The 8th Circuit Court of Appeals.
For Nebraska. So
I don't talk to camera very often, but the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, that's pretty impressive.
It was a phenomenal, I was there for a year, and just a really special opportunity. Got to go to oral arguments, of course, and those primarily happened in St. Louis and then also in Minneapolis. So traveled for argument days, helped the judge draft opinions, help research for opinions. So just like this is kind of a behind the scenes of Crete, that was a really cool behind the scenes of how the judicial process works.
Yeah, it's great on the job. You got to see a little of everything, didn't you?
Yes. Yeah.
And then you're in private practice. It doesn't It doesn't appeal to you. You did it. You were done.
I liked private practice. I was at a firm here in Lincoln, Nebraska, and I loved the firm. I mean, if I was going to stay in private practice, that's where I would have been. But honestly, I got an offer that I couldn't refuse, and that's when my family came and said, "Hey, would you ever consider coming back to Crete and being assistant general counsel for Crete, and then also running Acklie Charitable Foundation?" And that's not an opportunity you get every day. And there was just no way I could say no to that, to come back to work for the family company, to work literally with my family. It was wonderful. So I feel very, very blessed.
I don't want to get too in the weeds, and I don't want you to say anything you don't want to say, but I've worked with my family in family businesses and stuff. That can be very difficult. Is Thanksgiving just a bloodbath at your place, or does everybody kind of just know their role and assume their responsibilities and just roll with that?
I mean, there definitely are challenges. Either way, Thanksgiving, right? Ton is coming to Crete usually to deliver a Thanksgiving meal. And that's just always been part of growing up. So maybe part of it was growing up with that and kind of being used to it. It does make it a little interesting, like, Father's Day or another holiday. You'll just be opening presents, and then, there'll be some kind of piece of business. Oh, did that get taken care of? Did that? So, there is some of that weird, it's kind of always there. But for the most part, it's really great. And on the flip side, yes, that kind of the work encroaches into the family life sometimes. But then on the flip side, I come to work and my mom just shows up and drops in and says hi, and my grandmother's here, usually every week, and just, hey, you want to have lunch? You're already here. So it's really special to be able to have that.
To expand on that just a little bit more, to carry on the legacy of what your grandparents started is something that not everybody gets to do. That's quite an amazing thing, to be the third generation in a family business.
Oh, yeah. And I definitely think about that all of the time, especially with the work I'm doing for Acklie Charitable Foundation and what Dwayne and Phyllis started there. I mean, on a daily basis, I'm thinking about why they started ACF, why they started Crete, the values that they had, trying to continue to uphold those values. So it's really special.
Let's talk about ACF for a couple of minutes.
Sure.
What is the ACF? Why was it started? What's it trying to do?
So Dwayne and Phyllis started Acklie Charitable Foundation in 1989. And at the time, it was just kind of, honestly, just a business move. Like, okay, we're already donating. Let's just create this foundation, and it'll kind of streamline our personal giving that we're already doing. So for most of that time, it operated pretty informally. It wasn't, it was still doing great work, but it didn't have the kind of impact that it's having now. And then after Dwayne passed away, that's when there was a real, really transformation in the foundation. The foundation grew in size as a result of that. And that is part of what spurred the family to say, okay, we need somebody operating the foundation on a day-to-day basis. We can't just handle this as a family member, as a family on a quarterly or an annual basis. So that's when, they asked me if I would consider coming back and running that. So Dwayne and Phil, they both, as people who are familiar with their story or with the Crete story, maybe know a little bit about this, but they both came from very humble beginnings out of Madison County, Nebraska. They were both farm kids. Dwayne would take his tractor to Highway 81 in the summers and sell watermelons. He never thought he would be able to go to college and pursue higher education just because family finances didn't really allow it. And he got lucky. He got a football scholarship to Norfolk Junior College, and that kind of sent him on his way. And, eventually, due to that scholarship, and then the coach lined him up with some work study opportunities. Then he was able to go to law college here at the University of Nebraska. So they have always considered themselves very fortunate for the support that they got from Nebraska and Nebraskans. And so they really wanted to give back. And so that's what ACF became. It became their avenue to give back to Nebraska and kind of focus on, the biggest thing ACF does is education. And that ties back to, that story about how Dwayne and Phil got their start.
If I had to make a puritanical business decision, someone with ties to the family and someone who's a lawyer, seriously,
Yeah.
You're the best possible person to run this foundation.
I got lucky because that definitely was not some kind of master plan that I had when I went to law school. It never honestly even occurred to me. But yes, it really did. It worked out. And for that, I'm fortunate.
It's gotta make you proud too. You graduated from UNL Law as well.
Yes.
As well as your grandfather. That's kind of cool.
It is. And, now I get the honor of, I have his office here at Crete in the original, 1973 building. And so I sit at his desk. I think about this all of the time.
Do you?
Yeah. Yeah. There's still things in his desk, pens he's left, little things that I've just left in there because, when I open the drawer, I just kind of see it and it's kind of a reminder of him. So
it's nice that you're not taking what your grandparents built for granted. I would think that a lot of people would probably assume that. You're not. You're carrying on that legacy with all the pride and respect that you would hope that somebody in the family would.
That's my goal. That's what I hope, and I hope that I never lose sight of that. And I mean, I feel, very blessed. Phyllis is still with us. She is still very active on the foundation. Like I said, she's usually out here at least once a week. I talk to her, if not every day on the phone, at least every other day on the phone. So continuing to have her as a touchstone is great, because again, that just brings back to me, really all of the history and what I'm trying to accomplish.
Now that the foundation's been established, now that you've been running it for a while, what are you trying to do with the Well, what is everybody trying to do with the foundation? I guess it's not just you shepherding this thing. It's input from a lot of people in the family, especially. But what is it that everyone's trying to do with the foundation? Who are you trying to reach and accomplish with it?
Yeah. So the focus of the foundation is exclusively in Nebraska. And again, that harkens back to why Dwayne and Phil established it. It was kind of to give back to their home state that had given so much to them. We do primarily focus contributions in Lancaster and Madison counties, because again, those were their kind of homes within Nebraska. But we consider grants outside of those counties in Nebraska. So, keeping in mind that geographical focus, the goal of the foundation is really just to continue to make Nebraska the good life and help advance the next generation of leaders in Nebraska. And that's why, again, our focus really is on education and helping Nebraska youth. We focus on post-secondary scholarships, but also youth mentoring, after school, just that whole idea that education is a transformational experience. And if somebody gets a good, solid education, they're really able to chart the future for themselves.
Let's talk a little bit about you. Mm-hmm. You have a family?
Yes, married, and I have a 5-year-old daughter and an 8-month-old son.
Good grief. Loud at your place.
Occasionally.
And busy.
Yes.
Busy young family.
Yeah.
And you obviously like it here. To come back to Crete, you want to stay in Nebraska for a while?
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you like to do when you're not working?
That is a little bit challenging, because there's what I have to do as a mother,
right?
And getting my kids ready and all of that. But if you take all that off the table, like if I actually just have some free time, I like to read, I like to cook, and I love going to museums.
Right on. What's your favorite museum?
Oh gosh, I don't know if I have a favorite museum. Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago is really
That's a
cool.
great museum.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
I mean, I feel like you could spend, a whole day there plus. Love the Sheldon Museum here in Lincoln, Nebraska. That's
a good one.
That's where my husband and I actually got married.
Oh, you got married in the Sheldon?
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of cool.
He's an architect.
Makes sense.
Then with our love of museums, it just was kind of like the perfect venue for that.
So plan on continuing this and exposing your kids to museums?
Yes.
Since you and your husband both like it. It's very cool. I like that. Whenever we go on vacation as a family, we always take in at least one museum. And why wouldn't you?
Yeah. I mean,
you're never going to be there again.
There's some awesome museums, just little. It's been demolished now, but there was the the telephone museum here in
Oh, that's
Lincoln.
right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
And that was just kind of one of these specks, in the scene of Lincoln. It's not like a headline museum you would think about, but to your point, when you're visiting, you can find some really cool things that are overlooked in a museum, and it's worth stopping in.
Like the Hockey Hall of Fame in Hibbing, Minnesota, that I didn't think I would love, but it was really, really cool. I really appreciate you sitting down. I wanted to ask you real quickly before we wrap this up. What's the future? You're the future of Crete Carrier. What does that look like for the future, do you think?
Oh gosh. I'm excited. I mean, this is a challenging industry, but I feel like we have such a great team and a great company and great people. I mean, really that's that is also one of the really inspiring things about coming back to Crete and working at Crete is so many of these people, knew Dwayne, worked with Dwayne. They'll come in and tell me stories about him. I mean, the longevity of the people that we have here is just phenomenal. And so when I think about the future of Crete, I feel like it's really bright because we just have all of these really dedicated, amazing team members that, whatever the challenges are, whatever the new opportunities are, we've got bright and dedicated people that are going to chart the course forward.
Well, I appreciate learning more about the foundation and how it got started, but I really appreciate what your grandparents started and what you're continuing to do. So thank you for sitting down today. It was nice to get to know you a little bit more.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And thank you for listening and for watching the Meet Crete podcast. If you clicked on the link to get here today, just a reminder, you can find all of our podcasts on the Crete Carrier YouTube channel. And we'll be back to find out more about the people we work with inside Crete Carrier and Schaefer Trucking in the next episode of Meet Crete.